Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 4 of the BMC Sport Science podcast. I hope everyone's had a good week and getting ready to come back to college potentially next week if everything goes to plan. In this episode of the podcast, we'll be discussing coaching techniques and our experiences while coaching in and around the college, and hopefully finishing off with some tips that might help everyone listening in the future when they're putting on their coaching sessions. So before we begin with the podcast, Jason, I've heard that you started the lineup twice recently. How you getting on, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Lewis, mate. Hope you're well. Yeah, I've had a good game on the weekend. We won 0-0, so it's the first full game. So yeah, I was happy with that. Hope you had a good weekend too, pal.
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Well done for that, mate. Moving on then. I know it's a bit of a touchy subject at the minute, but Matt and John, I know you followed the rugby. How did the weekend go, lads?
Yeah. Well, first of all, congrats, Jason, on the win at the weekend.
Yes, pal.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say? England, Wales. England had it tough first half with some controversial decisions made by the ref, but at the end of the day, they took it back to 24 all with about 15, 20 minutes left, John, I think.
Yeah, just positive.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, the game was there for the taking at the end of the day, and discipline was poor, and we managed to, we let Wales back into the game, and they took that chance. So yeah,
I think it was always going to be a controversial game because obviously it's England Wales, and there's always been that kind of rivalry, the same as there is with England, Scotland, and England and Ireland. I think it must just be whenever any team plays England, it's always controversial. But without saying too much, I think the refs over the weekend did have a bit of a shocker. But the games are over now, like you're saying. It can't be changed, so it is what it is.
At least he came out and admitted that.
True.
Yeah.
Should have got Luke in as ref.
I think he knows more than the ref.
He probably does.
I'm not too familiar with the rules, but I'll give it a go.
Very good. There is always a big game when it's England, even with football. When we play Scotland and stuff like that, it's a massive game. So I suppose it's the same with rugby as well, isn't it, lads?
No one likes the English.
Oh, wow.
Especially the French, clearly.
Yeah.
It's too bad with the football. We always batter them though. It's a shame the rugby is not good.
So I'll move away from this topic because I didn't want Matt and John Jay to get any more angry. But Luke, we're going back to college tomorrow, and not tomorrow, next week. How do you feel about it, mate?
I'm quite happy about it, to be fair. It's kind of, I think online learning is a lot different to when you're actually on campus and stuff. And I just think being there is so much easier to keep engaged and kind of just be motivated really to get onto the lectures and do all the work that they set. So I think a lot of the lads can agree in here that getting back on campus will be so much better for just doing work really and kind of just socializing a little bit, because obviously we've been away from it for so long, just normal day to day, not seeing people and stuff like that. So I bet we all can't wait, to be fair.
Yeah, definitely. How about you, lads? Any opinions?
Yeah, I was going to say pretty much what Luke said. I think it would be pretty exciting to actually go back and have that kind of social interaction, because if you think about it, for practically a year we've been talking to our computer screens just the same as we are now. So it'll be nice to actually have some kind of social interaction with people, especially like in the class, because we're not a big class, and obviously there's little groups that we obviously all do stick around in, and it'll just be good to kind of get that back.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll move on into the main topics of the podcast then. Before we start, I think it'd be kind of good idea to get a little bit of knowledge about each of us on our like backgrounds in training and our like training history throughout the years. So if John Jay, do you want to start us off, mate? Just give us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, of course, mate. No problem. So I've been playing rugby now for at least probably 7 years now. Never always been a rugby player. I played tag rugby when I was a kid and kind of fell out with it and played football for a bit. I'm sure as you lads can see, I probably wasn't that good at football, so came back to rugby. Especially changed positions quite a lot in the past few years. Started off in the front row, then moved into the second row to the back row, and now became one of the fat lads again and ended up in the front row. But no, in terms of training environments, I think I've been fairly lucky. Not as lucky as probably some people with the training environments that they've been exposed to, but definitely over the years I've had good support by coaches, and I think that's one thing that probably everyone can talk about is that the training environment you're in definitely comes down to the coach and how they kind of, I know it sounds stupid, but the way they coach and the environment that they create for the players. Just to move on, in the levels of training I've been exposed to, I've probably not been exposed to such a high level of training as some people, like I say. But I think if I could pick out probably one really good kind of piece of coaching I've been given was actually by Harry Wells, who's a Leicester Tigers player now. He's pretty regular Tigers player. He's starting pretty much every week. And this is when I was playing in the back row. I was probably the main. Well, I was known as the main jumper in the lineouts. So it was really good for him to kind of give me one-to-one tips, especially at the level of rugby he plays. So I think it was really good to get that experience, definitely from a player like that. And I think it was yesterday we were all having a conversation, and Matt said, what was it about? If I'd had the same advice from kind of one of the dads, I probably wouldn't have took it on board as well. I don't know if anyone else can talk about that, but I think definitely just because it came from Harry, it kind of nailed it home.
Go on, Matt.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, so my training background similar to John Joe, really. I started from a football background from about the age of 4 or 5, and played that till I was about 12, and made the transition over to rugby, which I'm still currently involved in. But talking about levels of training, obviously it's increased for me over the years of my development, but from sort of my own experience, as I've got older in terms of from a rugby perspective, I enjoy training sessions that sort of begin with smaller side games, which allows you to obviously focus your attention on, your basic skills such as your passing, your lines of running, etc. And then typically progress into larger sided games. And the reason for that is because it's more rugby specific and game related. And I feel like obviously with my position as a fly half, being the playmaker, I've always been told sort of by the coaches to plan a few phases in advance. So for example, if we want to get to an edge, so for people that are unfamiliar with what an edge is, it's sort of in rugby terms, it's the get to the touch line. So for example, if we want to get the ball there because we've got our winger, our speedster out there and there's space out there, but the ball's on the opposite touch line, then in my head I'm thinking, right, we'll probably play 2 phases up front using the forwards, which will hopefully suck in their defenders. Then on the third phase we can spin it wide, where there hopefully be space to exploit. So I guess sort of what I'm going back to is that progression from small sided games to larger, more game related games. I definitely find more beneficial in terms of level of training. And the structure, the structure will become more second nature as well. So when you go into a match day on a Saturday, everyone on your team knows exactly their roles, and that way getting the ball from A to B should be a lot more smoother.
Yeah, cheers for that, Matt. Luke, do you wanna go for us, mate? No, well, Jason, we'll go with you then, mate. Can you just give us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so I started sport at quite a young age, obviously with football. Started playing when I was really young. Had a local team called O'Neill Colts. I also played a few other sports. I used to love playing golf. So a number of years growing up, I used to play golf. I used to play a bit of cricket as well. But yeah, I probably played golf up until I was about 13, 14. Used to play in like all the summer tournaments. I used to love it, to be honest. Got down to about, I had a handicap of, got down to about 10 at one point when I was about 14. Then, unfortunately, like obviously with the football as well, I slowly started to pack that in as my football got a bit more serious and I had less time to continue with it. But yeah, I played football all my life, mainly in academies growing up. In terms of best experiences in training, I'd probably say I've most enjoyed it when a coach has been really like friendly. And I certainly remember one coach I had growing up that he used to join in all the training sessions. So we was probably like 11 or 12 and he just used to join in. It used to be really fun. We used to enjoy it. I certainly think, yeah, it's definitely much more enjoyable when a coach is like that in terms of instead of, ruling by like fear and like really authoritative. I think you play your best when you feel more relaxed and most comfortable. So yeah, I definitely think that's when I most enjoyed my football, was when the coaches were like really friendly and helpful. Thinking of an example of a coach that made me a better person or player. Yeah, I think I remember a couple when I used to play for Burton. I had a really good coach, and he used to speak to me, on and off the field. And I think growing up, it was really important. You had a coach like that because, these coaches, especially when you're a young kid, they're sort of like they've got to help you guide you through life as well. It's not just like all about the actual sport. So yeah, I think that was really important. Progressions, and I think obviously going through the academies growing up, each year sort of got more technical. Starting off, it was just sort of like go out there and just play. But then as the coaching got better, I feel like, yeah, as a player, I got better. But yeah, I think I really enjoyed it growing up, especially with the coaches that, were friendly and made you feel comfortable. So yeah.
Yeah, cheers for that, Jason. Luke, I know you had some difficulties with your computer there. You're right now.
Yeah, I think I've got the all clear. Am I all right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's all good, mate.
Yeah, sorry about that. So I believe I've started playing football when I was around 6, or it might have been earlier. I really can't remember, to be fair. Can't remember what happened yesterday. So, so I started playing football around 6, and I played with the year above for a few years. And then about 2 years after, I just started playing, obviously my age group, with like friends and stuff. But I've always been in kind of like, if a few of you know, it kind of goes like Division 1's the best and stuff like that. So I've always been kind of like Division 1, just kind of playing for enjoyment rather than playing to win and stuff. And I believe that's kind of what Jason said. If you're playing with coaches that enjoy it and aren't too serious, then they kind of get the best out of you at that age. Where, as I said, you are playing football kind of just to enjoy and obviously progress at the same time, but just to play. And I think that is like one of the best things to have as a coach, for them to be friendly and stuff like that. But I'd say the highest level of coaching I've probably had was I kind of went on like a trial period at Derby County when I was in year 11. And it was like they came to watch one of my games at the time, and then they just asked me to train with them for, I think it was a few weeks or something like that. And I say that was probably the best, highest level of coaching, but I wouldn't even say that's the most enjoyable, because I was still 16. I wasn't taking football too seriously, but it was the best coaching in terms of like professionalism and stuff. And yeah, but apart from that, I'd say one of the best coaches I've had, I suppose you won't mind too much if I name drop, was probably it's Wits from the 21s, which is the first year of the 21s. And I believe this is where I kind of developed myself the most in terms of like confidence, ability, and just enjoyment. I'd also say that he made me develop as a leader, which obviously a good trait to have as a person. You know what I mean, to have that trait. And yeah, because he sent me as captain for obviously the first year, and then it kind of gives you more responsible and take the lead for yourself. And yeah, I believe it made me a beneficial person, like benefited me. Yeah, and most of the lads here know about Wits, even the rugby lads, just from seeing him around campus and stuff. He was always positive and always smiling. And it's kind of like if he needed anything, he was never scared to just have a word or whatever. He was always like welcoming you with open arms. And I believe as a coach, that is like one of the best things to have, really. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you there, mate. He's a great coach. Thanks for that, everyone. It's interesting to hear that from all of you. We'll move on to coaching now. Is everyone all right sharing their experiences that they've got while doing some coaching sessions? That could be in or outside of the college. John Joe, would you like to start for us, mate?
Yeah, of course, mate. So I was actually lucky enough to get a job at Leicester Tigers. I think that was leading on from one of our work experience modules in our first 2 years. We were placed at Welford Road and did a load of work experience there. And I think because we kind of showed our faces, they sort of liked us. And then a job opportunity came up as a multi-sports coach. So basically running either PE sessions or after school sessions at primary schools. But to actually get this job, I had to get a level 2 coaching award with England Rugby, and obviously loads of other qualifications that are probably not relevant to coaching. But obviously doing the degree and having all these modules in coaching, I had a rough idea of how to actually coach. And I was actually lucky enough to go around multiple schools in Leicestershire and Leicester to deliver multi-sports coaching. And if I'm honest, I think that's probably one of the best experiences I've had coaching, because I feel like that made me a really good coach. I think Matt's going to touch on this later, but it's about stepping outside of your comfort zone, because I was definitely stepping outside of my comfort zone when I was coaching sports I had no clue about. I mean, I was coaching I was coaching football sessions, basketball sessions, tag rugby sessions, even if it came to dodgeball and stuff. And I think with my coaching experience, because it was with such young children, probably going from year 3 to year 6, obviously I wasn't being too serious of a coach. It was mainly for the enjoyment, really. But like I say, I think that was definitely one thing that made me such a good coach, is like I say, stepping outside of my comfort zone. And another thing I can probably add on is making sure you're actually planned for a session. So knowing what you're doing on the day, having your equipment ready, and turning up in all your equipment as well. Like obviously working for Tigers, I was lucky enough to get a bit of stash, some nice stash, to be fair.
Stash.
You got to love a bit of stash.
What's stash?
Who loves a bit of stash?
Love stash.
What is stash?
Stash.
It's definitely rugby terms, isn't it, Matt?
Stash is like free clothing. Well, not
free clothing, basically.
Yeah, it's clothing.
But no, it kind of gives you that kind of professional feeling of like walking into a place and having all this Tigers stuff on. Just it's not like an authoritative thing, but it just kind of makes you feel like you are part of that scheme. And but yeah, I'd say I was pretty lucky enough to actually have that opportunity. And then coaching at college is probably another one that stands out for me. I think because we're in a class full of mates, so they're normally good sessions because we have a bit of banter along the way. So it's definitely a fun environment to coach in. So sometimes it can be nerve-wracking because I think Matt can probably understand this. Trying to coach a rugby session to a group of footballers and vice versa, it's a bit stressful at times. But I think again, it's just stepping out of that comfort zone and being able to understand who your participants are and their needs, and it's being able to like kind of take that step back and realizing, look, I am the coach. I do need to coach. Like, although they're my mates, I can take charge in this session.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there. Yeah, Matt, do you wanna start us off as well, mate?
Yeah, cheers, Lewis. First of all, I just want to say it's great hearing how John Joe was able to go from sort of work experience into a part-time job. I mean, that's credit to the Leicester Tigers there for obviously giving him that opportunity to go through that pathway. But for me, John Joe just touched on it, but basically the first half of the year, I was involved in the strength and conditioning sessions for the age and development rugby team at the college. So I was involved in the Monday sessions, and these were mainly outdoors and circuit based. And I can certainly say that sort of over the first few weeks, it was definitely nerve wracking for me. Personally, I've never really done any coaching previously, and I wouldn't say I got necessarily thrown into the deep end by any means, because I had great mentors to give me examples, sort of certain movements, and that I could use in the session. But certainly at the start, when I first started coaching, one of the things that I found difficult was sort of giving examples and demonstrations on, say, specific movements. Um, so, for example, sometimes I might stutter my words, or I might have not fully explained something, which may have led to a bit of confusion between the participants. But I think that the main thing is that, like John Joe has mentioned, is that you do take yourself out of that comfort zone. And there's actually a fantastic quote by Martin Luther King that says, the ultimate measure of a person is not where they stand in moments of comfort or convenience, but where they stand at times of challenge and controversy. So I think that's so important in standing up to that challenge. For me, it was about explaining certain movements, but almost give it a go. Try your best, and ultimately, that's why you have your mentors there. For example, for me, it would be like, oh Matt, I felt like you did this well, but maybe in the future you could go into a bit more detail on, say, how to perform the squat, and go through them key coaching points. So for example, feet shoulder width apart, feet slightly pointing outwards, chest up, shoulders back, hips back, knees bent. And drive through your heels. And so really, you learn from your failures, which brings you success in the future. So, yeah.
That's great, Matt. Thank you for that. We'll lead on with you then, Jason, because Luke messed the order up last time. So do you want to go as well, mate?
Yeah, so it's great hearing from the other boys on their experiences, and fair play to John Joe, in getting his part-time job. I'd say I haven't had too many experience of coaching, but I'd say the main ones I've experienced are during the coaching modules for the degree and in the BTEC. I'd say at the start, it was like the first few sessions I took, I was a bit like, what? Like, this is a bit weird, like, especially because like some of the times you was coaching your mates. So it can be you feel a bit awkward. And you don't really feel like you want to take charge because you feel like they're just like gonna take the mick out of you. But definitely after the first few sessions, I felt like you just sort of like it got easier. You just got to grasp it and like sort of go for it. I feel like got less anxious the more times I actually took some sessions, which definitely helped. And I feel like when you do take charge of the sessions, and you lead them, the lads start to respect you a bit more when you're coaching. In terms of the actual sessions that I put on, mainly there's just like attacking football play. So obviously some of the lads, I know John Joe definitely struggled with the attacking football play. That's why we had to put him in net. But you know, we had people like Luke on the wing who's got a little bit. So yeah, they went well in the end. I'd say the main area that I needed to work on was probably explaining the techniques in detail a bit more, especially for lads that don't obviously aren't always playing football or whatever. But yeah, definitely explaining and just being confident, really, just taking charge of the session. Like, once you take charge, the lads just go along with it and you feel much better about yourself. And yeah, definitely I'd plan the sessions over and over, just so like it builds that confidence that you know what you're doing, so you don't need to feel nervous. So yeah, that's my coaching experience. I'll leave you on to Luke.
Yeah, cheers for that, Jace. Mine's kind of the same as Jason, to be fair, with my only coaching experience as being within the uni and college. So it's kind of one of them where at the start I was a bit anxious because obviously I've never coached properly before, and you kind of just put in front of a group that they won't judge you as such, but it's kind of like you kind of think, do they know more than me and stuff like that. So it can be quite daunting. But as it was kind of with a group that we knew, it was a lot easier than if it obviously was a group that you have no idea before, and they're kind of looking at you thinking, no, this guy should know what he's on about. But yeah, it's kind of, when I started, I was a bit anxious, but then you kind of ease into it as you're getting along. And I think the reason I found it quite easy was I was prepared for the session. Obviously, if you're prepared, making diagrams of the session, knowing what you're going to do, and kind of preparing in such where you've got a time scale, which we had when we had to do it. And if you kind of prepare this beforehand, if you're going to fit into it, then it's a lot easier. And I'd say that I did enjoy it in the end, as obviously as the sessions went on, you kind of get more comfortable, and yeah, you kind of get better as such. But I believe that the course of coaching has benefited me in terms of increasing like confidence in the group, and like just in preparation for different things, different assignments and stuff like that. And I believe something that helped was we got feedback from David, which was the tutor for the group, and also the participants. And the feedback that I got for this was mainly positive, and the session was interactive and fun, which was kind of one of my personal aims. Because like I've said previously, and like Jason said, if the session's fun, then you're kind of more engaged with it, and then you kind of want to try harder because the coach is decent. So that was kind of one of my aims, and I believe it was kind of a confidence booster. And I'd say overall, it was a really good experience for myself, and I think the lads can agree that coaching is quite fun, but it can be quite daunting at the start. So yeah, that's mine.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that, everyone. It's great to hear that from all of you. I think that, you know, as you get more practice coaching, because it is nerve-wracking and a bit daunting at the start, but as you get more practice, you get a bit more confident in, even if it's with your own group of mates, especially in like the modules that we've done, it makes it a bit easier just getting that practice in as well. Moving on then, overall, we'll go with you, Luke and Matt. What are the top tips that you can suggest to people while they're planning on coaching?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my best tip is just touching back on Luke's point about being prepared prior to the session, sort of well in advance. For me, going back to the S&C stuff that I was talking about with the ACE and development team at Brooksby, at the beginning when I first started back in September, I was sort of really just waiting to get there and find out what the session was about, and sometimes that would leave me with sometimes as little as 15 minutes to plan out a full S&C session, which is nowhere near enough to create a quality session. So instead, I thought to myself, like, I need to give myself more time. This is affecting my development and obviously the participants' outcome as well. So instead, what I did after a couple of weeks, I started getting in contact with the coach who I was working alongside prior to the session. So say if we had a session in the afternoon, I'd contact them in the morning, and I would find out sort of what the session was on, and that gave me adequate time then to plan a decent session out. And with that comes confidence. You know, I touched back earlier on how I initially struggled on explaining and demonstrating stuff. And you know, if you prepare well in advance, you're then confident on what you're delivering because you own that. Therefore, you're not just taking someone's session and trying to implement it into yours. Obviously, by all means, take ideas and suggestions, but when improving as a coach, you have to take that ownership in planning the session that you're going to deliver. And like I've mentioned, in doing that, we're built on you build your confidence, which will allow you to increase your belief and decrease your anxiety that people were touching on earlier in their experiences. So so that's really my top tip. Luke, I don't know what you've got, mate.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Preparation is definitely one of the bigger things that you do need when you're coaching. It shows kind of professionalism and stuff like that. So yeah, moving on to mine, I'd say that my biggest tip to have as a coach is to be enthusiastic and positive. And I'd say this is probably the biggest tip for myself. No matter what level you are coaching at, obviously if you're a professional club with first team players, the level of enthusiasm wouldn't be as high as if you was conducting a session with young athletes. But and you should be eager to coach and not seem if you're just doing it for your own personal benefit, just to get it over and done with. Kind of say, with us, we were doing it for an assignment, but I think a lot of us were doing it for the individuals as well. We seemed enthusiastic. It's not that we wanted to get it out of the way, but yeah, if I feel you see that you're eager and enthusiastic, then they're more likely to enjoy themselves, I'd say, and try a little bit harder. And enthusiasm is particularly important for younger learners, as if you're young, they might just want to have fun with the session, and they may be new to the sport, and therefore leaving a good impression with them. We want them coming back and enjoy the sport as a whole. And yeah, a good impression is important for young and novice learners, as it can determine their whole view on the sport, whether they want to come back and stuff like that. So I've just got a quick quote here, which is by John Wooden. He states that your energy and enjoyment, drive and dedication will stimulate and greatly inspire others, where it will not only inspire others, but it'll inspire you to reach new heights. So that's basically saying, obviously, the four components there: energy, enjoyment, drive, and dedication will, like I've said, stimulate the growth in terms of their personal development, and it will also inspire you to reach new heights. So if you're putting in the effort for yourselves, for them, then you're only going to benefit yourself as well as them. So yeah, I'd say my tip really is just enthusiasm and energy with them. Because if you're dull and you're kind of just doing it for yourself, then the lads are going to think, why do I want to do this if it seems like he doesn't want to do this? And it's not professional with whatever level you are actually managing, kids, novices, or even professionals. So yeah, I'd say that's mainly my greatest tip, to be fair.
Yeah, cheers for that, lads. I think both of those things will definitely make you a better coach in the future. So obviously it's important to know the do's while coaching, but I think equally important it's good to know the don'ts as well. So John, Joe and Jason, can you speak to us a little bit about what to try and avoid while coaching?
Yeah, since we had a bit of controversy at the start with England and Wales, I think I might add a bit more controversy here. Now, obviously, I can't fault any coaching Jason's received, because I mean, look where he is now. But Jason and Luke both touched upon coaches who join in with sessions, and I wanted to add earlier, I think that can actually be quite a downfall in coaching. I remember, I think it was probably from the space between about under 13s to under 15s, we had a coach. I won't mention any names, but he actually used to join in with our sessions quite frequently. And I think it was actually one of our team's downfalls. I think it's mainly because you can't see as much of a coaching session if you're joining in with a session as you can when you're actually stepping back and looking at what your actual players are doing. And this leads me on to kind of a do and a don't, is build a rapport with your players or your participants. But it's important to remember that, like I said before, you are the coach. Now, it's great having a coach, as Luke and Jason have both said. It's great having a coach who's friendly, who's enthusiastic, who's positive. But it's finding that balance between how much of a coach I am and how much of a friend I am to these players. Because I don't know. I could say it's quite unprofessional if you've got a coach who's kind of joining in sessions, playing touch with 14, 15-year-old kids and not actually taking a stand on coaching. Like I say, this coach, I remember we had coaching sessions of literally a full session just playing touch rugby, and I think that's just why we weren't such a good age group. So, like I say, the big word I'd probably say is balance. Is just making sure you do know you are the coach. You can take charge, and you can also take a step back and look at what your players are doing, what your athletes are doing, how you can improve your athletes, and yeah, that's pretty much my point. I know it's a bit of a do and a don't.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one, really. With regards to what you said about coaches joining in, I don't know if it's different with rugby, but I definitely think you still have to maintain that, as long as you've got that control and that respect. Obviously, I know you need to be like supportive, but obviously you don't want to become too much of a friend. Like, you don't want it to be like that. You need to maintain the control over the group and the respect, because if they don't like respect you, might start like messing about, whatever. But as long as you maintain that respect. But certainly in football, I've had coaches where they've joined in sessions such as like possession sessions or like rondos and stuff like that. And I think I did think it actually helped because, well, the coach was actually pretty decent himself. You know, he was training with 13, 14-year-old lads, and he brought the level of the session up a little notch. Like, he demanded, because he's joining the session, like, you want to do better as well, because like it's like playing with a teammate. So I thought like it did actually bring the level of the session up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think as long as like the coach maintains like, again, like the control of the session, I think maybe sometimes the coach can see, get a better knowledge of his players through playing with them, because he understands like what sort of player they are, what sort of things they like to do and stuff like that. So I think it's like it's getting the right balance between maintaining the control and joining in to like improve the session. Yeah, I don't know if rugby is different to football, but that's some of the experience I've had. But the main things that I'd say to avoid when coaching, I'd say, is being really negative, and actually knocking the confidence of the players. You know, by, instead of sort of like maybe telling them off or whatever, or shouting at them, maybe just like helping them, saying, look, this is what you need to do better. This is how it should be done. So yeah, that's the main thing I'd say to avoid when coaching. But yeah, I certainly think it comes down to individual opinion of what type of coach you are. And you know, if you've got to be a decent level or still be able to play to join in. So I think it's just dependent on the group and the coach in particular. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I agree with both what you've said there. I think if a coach was to join in, I think there is a time and a place for that. I mean, in the rondos and stuff like that, it's a bit of fun anyway, isn't it? So it's quite nice to have a bit of fun with the coach. But going into like the stuff where you want to actually progress your skills in, it might hinder your performance because you're thinking about him joining in rather than helping you perform that skill. But yeah, thanks for sharing that today, everyone. It's quite good to hear what will and what won't help your coaching in the future. And I'm sure anyone listening to this, if they can take that on board, it will make their coaching sessions a little bit better in the future. Or if you've never had to conduct a coaching session, there's some little tips that might help you doing that. So thank you for everyone listening today. I hope everyone has a good day and have a safe journey back into college next week. Thank you.